Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Wedding Ceremony Podcast. We talk about anything and everything that has to do with wedding ceremonies. My name is Clint Huft, and with me is a gentleman that is about to introduce a very special guest, but he is special in his own right, J.P. Reynolds.
Clint, you sweet talker, you. Well, I am beyond delighted. Our guest today, Tatiana, welcome. Tatiana, you are your title at the Castle Green events manager.
Events director, yeah.
We have known each other for a few years now, but recently you once again hosted the annual open house at the Castle Green. You are a very gracious host
Very
because
kind of you,
I have to
JP.
say I do not like open houses. I do not like wedding networking events. It's just too
Totally.
much. And you were so calm and in control and gracious. Was standing at my table and I thought, Clinton, I need to have this woman on our show. So here we are.
Tatiana, go ahead and tell everybody what you think they need to know about what you do and your job.
So I've been at the Castle Green. It'll be 5 years come July this year. I've been the event director here for the better part of those years. I am typically the first person people meet when they come in to start planning a wedding. So a lot of couples start with the venue search. It's kind of I always call it the big puzzle piece to the whole thing. You can't do much without it. I am doing initial meetings with couples, meeting couples who are newly engaged, looking for their venue, and then following them through the whole process, from booking all the way through planning to the day of. I have worked with hundreds of couples now on that process, which has been really, really incredible.
JP
And
gave you, in my opinion, one of the ultimate compliments, and that is that as a host, which ultimately you are because you're representing the venue, you're very calm and friendly.
Yeah,
And I've always
absolutely.
said that the best event planners that I've ever worked with are the ones that handle things with a smile. Well, they get stuff done. They understand that this needs to be done like right
Absolutely.
now, but you can't be a raging lunatic, one would hope.
No, I think we've all dealt with those, right? We've all been at those venues or those planners or even just vendors who maybe aren't as well suited for the industry. You do need a calm exterior at the very least to get through the day.
It makes a huge difference. I'm curious what you think of a wedding when it comes to your venue, because a couple of episodes ago, we were talking about wedding ceremonies and how different people approach it. And I posited the theory that when a couple, and you actually kind of reinforced this when you said one of the first big pieces in the puzzle is the venue, that for a couple, even though we're focused on the wedding ceremony and we know the significance of the wedding ceremony and it's
Totally.
a transitional moment, but when they're planning their wedding day, they think of it not as a transitional moment or a milestone or that sort of thing. They think of it as a big social event. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Absolutely. I do think so. And I think that the conversation about ceremonies changes so much throughout planning. At the very beginning, a lot of it is just what looks pretty, right? For me, the conversation is what's the view going to be? What picture do you want? Where do you want to be standing? All those kinds of logistical conversations are kind of where we start. And it's not really until towards the end of that process that couples are starting to really think about, well, what are we saying up there? What do we want to say? Who do we want included in that? All the parts that you guys do with couples, I'm not always privy to. I typically end up more on the logistics part of it, but it's kind of a slow process for couples to realize it's a huge part of the day.
Does your venue require that the clients have an event planner or have you filled that role?
We do require it. Yeah, we have wonderful partners that we recommend for couples to work with. My goal is to work in partnership with those folks to make sure that they have a seamless day, but I leave it to them. They are doing God's work, truly.
Tatiana, I realize that we know the Castle Green, but there are going to be folks listening in right now who do not
True.
understand just how unique the Castle Green is. Before we go even further into this
True.
conversation, I think it's important to let folks know that you are not a hotel.
We are not a hotel. Good point, JP. Common misconception, despite not having been a hotel for about 100 years, we are often mistaken for being a hotel. So the Castle Green is now over 125 years old. It was built in 1898. So it's a Nationally Registered Historic Landmark property. There are condominiums upstairs, so no longer hotel rooms, but it was originally built as long-term stay for folks that came from the East Coast to enjoy our beautiful winter weather here in Pasadena as we're enjoying a heat wave in March.
The interesting thing, I think, is that overlooking where the ceremony will be, where the outdoor reception might be, are folks looking out their living room window
Yeah.
onto a ceremony. And that as guests arrive,
Mhm.
mingling among the guests, or as they come through the front gate, could be somebody on their way back from the supermarket.
Because we have units upstairs, we have 52 units on site. We're residential condominiums day to day, and the ground floor of the building serves as an event space. And so we have weddings most weekends of the year. During weddings and during events, the whole ground floor is blocked off per event. So the residents are using separate entrances and exits. They are typically not hanging out on their balconies. Thankfully, they're less interested in the weddings these days than most people would assume they would be, though. I've got a couple of residents who love to open their windows and actually listen to ceremony. I've got a few residents who their favorite part of the day is listening to people share their vows and ceremony. So we have
Love
a few
that.
that love to listen in, which is really, I think, special and lovely. But yeah, it's a really unique property. And with the historic nature of it means that almost everything is original on property, the tile, the wood, most of the furniture throughout the property as well. So it really is a little step back in history.
I don't know if my approach to listening, like if I lived there
Yeah.
and I would open up my windows, because of course I would want to hear the ceremony, but I think that my attitude towards the ceremony would be a little bit different than someone who was hoping for a hunk of love and all that kind of stuff. I'd be thinking about all the technical things and all that kind of stuff, which brings me back to this question. You
Yeah.
require an event planner,
Yes.
but has a potential client or perhaps a book client come to you and said, well, I have an Aunt Susie and she's going to be
Mhm.
our event planner. Does that work with you?
No. Short answer, no. Long answer. We've actually changed our policy throughout the time I've been here. So when I started, we required only day of coordination, and it was technically required that it wasn't a family member or, someone close to you, but it was harder to rule that out. There was no approval process if it wasn't someone we'd worked with before. So I've changed that. Now we require at least a month of coordination. So we do require clients to work with that person longer, which I think is a huge difference in the experience for all vendors and the couple. In addition to that, if you don't work with one of our preferred coordinators or planners, we do require an approval process to make sure that we are working with someone. So as much as we love Aunt Susie and she's so good at planning a good birthday party, weddings are a different beast, and we do require a professional to be handling them for couples. It makes the biggest difference in the day.
I would think it does. What's the requirement?
It's going to be a professional. It's going to be someone who does this for a living. We require that you have a website. We require that we get references. We're going to contact references, and we do a short interview as well to make sure that we're covering some basic things like I want to see a sample timeline. I want to talk about your experience with vendors, how you run a day so that I have a good idea of if you're prepared to take on the job.
How many times have you said, get out of here?
More than I thought I would when I started this job. Probably more. I've had a handful of times. I think too, because I used to coordinate weddings. I came into the industry as an assistant to a wedding coordinator and eventually coordinated on my own. I have a little bit more of that kind of inside baseball knowledge, like you were talking about with ceremonies, where you know how they're supposed to go. So I've had a few instances where I've had to say, this isn't going so smoothly. Can we make some adjustments here?
Is that a different way of saying get out of here?
It's a polite version of we will not be asking you to come back to the building.
I just want to survive this. Please let me survive this. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Tatiana, in terms of ceremonies at the Castle Green, most of your ceremonies would be outdoors, I presume, in the
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful yard, front to garden. Any particular favorite memories of a ceremony experience?
There we go.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
So much of the part for me with ceremonies, it has changed so much from working in coordination to venue, is that so much of my job now is logistics, right? I don't get to be as part of the processional process and all those aspects that I got to do before. And so a lot of my role now is design related, chair arrangement, making sure we're having all those aspects fine-tuned to what the couple want. I will say ceremony is still one of my favorite parts. I really, really love ceremonies. I always cry still, often during vows. The moments that are really special during ceremonies is I get to learn a little more about my couples than I necessarily got to during the planning process. Again, because things are logistics focused, we're not always getting into the reasons why they chose each other or the things that brought them together. And so the really special part for me as ceremony when I listen in is I get to learn a little bit more about my couple and how they ended up there on their wedding day. I can think of couples I had who are high school sweethearts, and I got to learn about them falling in love as young kids and the experience of growing up together and them sharing decade leading to that moment, which is so special. I just had a couple get married in February who I thought about who went through a lot of health challenges leading to their wedding day, and getting to hear them both share their love and appreciation for each other in a really unique way that you both know this from ceremonies is it's different than you would share in a conversation. Just gives a little window into people's lives that I really, really enjoy.
Have you ever had a couple cancel their wedding within 72 hours?
I have not. I'm going to knock on wood. I haven't.
Okay.
I've had some crazy postponements, as we all dealt with due to COVID and other kind of emergencies. And I've had some crazy last minute postponements, but I have yet to have a last minute cancellation. And I would love to keep it that way.
So what we really want to know, have you observed any officiants where you also wanted to say, get out of here?
Never a professional, I'll tell you that. The professionals are always great. I know, JP got to see my eye roll. Those who have never done it before tend to have a little trouble, right? It's often a friend or a family member, which if that's the route you go, I get it. I did it too.
Wait a minute. Did you just say that you have officiated a ceremony?
No, I chose family for officiating my own wedding. No, I have not officiated yet.
And you chose somebody, a non-professional for your wedding.
I did, believe it or not. I know. I went against the grain on that, shockingly.
But how long ago was that? When was your ceremony?
I got married last year.
Holy moly. What the heck?
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. And we had our brothers officiate. So we each have a brother, and our brothers co-officiated, and they did a way better job than I expected of them. But I will say the things that I've seen go wrong, to answer your question, or not wrong, but just not as smoothly, are often very nervous officiants. They're typically their first time. The big one we see, and I'm sure you've seen, is not telling guests to sit down. That's a big one. And it was for me when I got married was my number one to my brothers to say, I need you to tell people to sit down, because the number of times that myself, other staff are at the back of the ceremony with our hands waving, going, please tell them to sit down, because guests will stay standing. Guests will stand the whole ceremony if you don't tell them to sit down. And so that's often the one where I go, oh boy, I really wish I could step in and help this guy out a little bit because they're struggling. It's
so funny how the simplest thing can be the biggest thing, because we hear that over and over. We've heard it from photographers, from videographers, from planners, from, everybody. And they all say the same thing as the number one beef is tell them to sit down.
100%. Everything else, typically, you can kind of fudge everything else. I think that's the easy part. Everything else, they have a script, they can kind of do. Telling people to sit down is super simple, but it is easily forgotten.
It really is amazing. Yeah, UCLA needs to do a study on what's going on with people. There's something that just clicks in the collective mind of the audience where they look to the officiant as the police officer who's giving directions, and
everyone seems to forget that they have agencies. Like they just have to. Yes. You are in charge of us. Tell us what to do, so they don't move.
Maybe that's why some of the rookies are so nervous. I don't know if it's like a combo platter of public speaking and also I'm in charge now. I don't know if that responsibility kicks in or if they're just obliterated.
They realize it a little late, maybe. They're a little late. They're like, oh, wait, I am in charge here.
Well, okay. So as a venue representative, do you also have a preferred vendors list in regards to officiants?
I do. JP's on it.
Well, there you go. That's why he was at your thing. That's awesome.
Exactly.
And great officiants.
And great officiants. It's actually just the two of you. Yeah.
Do you have any kind of vetting system? Obviously, you have horror stories for people that are doing it for the first time. Do you recommend any kind of vetting system if somebody is going to have a relative or somebody who's never done it before officiate their wedding ceremony? Is there anything that you give them maybe to kind of help the first timer?
I don't. I do know planners that do. So I don't. The only advice I typically give, and I do give the couple, is actually more logistics specific for sound at the Castle Green. So we're right on the street at the Castle Green, right? And so the only thing I do remind couples to let their officiant know if they haven't been here before is if an ambulance goes by, please take a pause and then continue after the ambulance has left.
Oh, that's such
And
great
that's,
advice. I didn't even think of that. That's such
yeah,
great advice.
it's not one to compete with and try to fight the noise. It goes quickly and it's easiest just to kind of let it do its thing. And so that's usually my only piece of advice that I find really important. But I do know planners that have more specific guidelines, and they tend to, during rehearsal, go through some of that with the newer officiants.
I was born and raised in New York City,
Oh my
and
gosh.
part as you were just speaking, part of me was like, oh yeah, no, that's great advice. And then the other part of me was like, oh, wait a minute. As a New Yorker, we don't stop for anything.
No,
You're not going to let siren if New Yorkers stop talking because of sirens,
you'd never
a
talk.
very quiet city. And and I'm thinking, oh yes, okay, I need to remember that. But that is great advice.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have done a number of ceremonies at your venue, and I know that a lot of the ceremonies are outside, but you have the capability because it's such a big venue. There's a room inside if they need to pull it inside because of weather and things like that. Do you let your potential clients know that you have a plan B?
Absolutely. It's one of my first discussions with couples if they're coming in particular in certain months that we don't get a ton of rain rather here in LA, but when we do, we want to make sure that couples feel comfortable with their backup plan. So if they're coming in looking at any of the winter months, I'll typically show that to them at their initial meeting with me. And then we kind of touch base throughout. So some couples, I've had couples come in and say, look, we're not outdoor people. We don't like to be outdoors. We want to be inside no matter what. I said, okay, great. Here's your inside option. We'll do it. Most couples want to be outside, understandably. Again, the good weather and being able to enjoy the garden spaces. But we always have that backup plan. So if couples need to move inside due to any inclement weather, both heat and rain, we can move them fully inside and do the whole event indoors.
Yeah, I think that plan B is critical.
I always tell couples, if you're getting married in July, you're probably safe. You don't have to stress quite as much about your plan B, but it's good to know what it is, especially if you're looking at, those winter months of the year. You should have a solid rain plan.
Because I'm from New York originally,
Yeah,
I am used to old buildings. New York City of just wonderful architecture and
of
old buildings.
course.
And when I first came to LA, and I've been here for more years than I lived in New York, what was challenging was just this sense of, I want something old.
Yeah.
Would say to me, well, there's a hot dog stand down the block. It's from 1970. That was their understanding of a historic landmark. That is, that's one of the reasons why I immediately fell in love with the
Yeah.
Castle Green. And I have to say, I have officiated a couple of weddings in, I suppose you would call it the drawing room,
The ballroom. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
well, the ballroom, and then in the like the sunroom area,
Yeah.
smaller. Doing so certainly fulfilled my Victorian sensibilities and fantasies. There is nothing like it in Southern California. I mean, wouldn't you agree, Clint? I mean, there's lovely indoor settings and ballrooms, but when you're at the Castle Green, this is not an artificially decorated environment to give you that old time feel.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
Plus, it's in Pasadena, and Pasadena does have some other buildings that are vintage, if you will, but there is nothing like Castle Green in terms of the architecture and things like that. Plus, I think that there's a difference in the acoustics once you're inside, and that could be because of the architecture. And as an officiant, I think it's important for that aspect to be known. So, Tatiana, in regards to the other vendors, I mean, obviously, officiants make the world go around, but what about the other vendors at a wedding ceremony? Is there anything where you need to step in order to, that could be a problem?
Good photography. I am sure you're used to this and used to that answer. I'm sure talking to photographers, but I think ceremony involves more vendors than couples kind of realize or know about. It's a very carefully orchestrated event with no dress rehearsal. It's one of the more unique experiences in that way. So you have your officiant, you have your coordinator, your planner, you have photo, sometimes video as well, you have DJ, and then you have a couple hundred guests that you have to work around the whole time. Having a team that knows each other or has worked together before, I think, is kind of the hack to a really smooth ceremony. Having people that know each other, that's their dress rehearsal, right? They've done a couple dozen, sometimes more of these events together. They know how to perfectly dance together so that everything runs really, really smoothly for you. And I definitely see that when couples do work off a preferred list at our venue or are working with vendors that happen to all know each other and refer to each other. It's a really great way to see everything just go so smoothly.
I agree 100%. If you have a professional officiant that has a clue, then before the ceremony, they're going to go to the people that have a lens, whether it be video or photography. And one of the things I ask each of them individually, separately, is, have you ever worked with the photographer before? Have you ever worked with the video person before? And if they say no, then I have to make sure that I go over the logistics of what the couple has put together. That's the way I work. The logistics of the ceremony of this person's going to be here and we're going to go there and da da da. But I always cap it with, okay, just as long as the you two get along. I'm sure that you've seen
I
where
love that.
there's aisle battles, you know.
You would probably agree it's typically photo video if they haven't met or worked together. And I've seen times where I have, let's say I have a photo here who is maybe a preferred vendor. I've worked with them a lot, so they know their property really well, but they have video they've never worked with, and I don't know either. And sometimes they don't even meet. There's times where didn't say hi quite yet and all that. And I'm like, this is important. We got to do this before ceremony. You got to get to know each other. You're going to work together for the next 8+ years. Let's get to know each other. And so, yeah, I've definitely seen the times where, end of ceremony photo comes over and they're like, video was in my shot the whole
Oh
time.
man. Oh
And they were
man.
trying to get around him the whole ceremony. And so those relationships are so crucial throughout the entire wedding day. But ceremony, there's only one shot at it. There's no, could we take that again? Can we get a
Oh yeah,
second?
there's no take
You,
two. No. Here we
we're
go.
doing this. The emotions are there. It's raw, and you have to capture it as photo video. And you really got to be on the same team, looking out for each other, because otherwise, the couple aren't going to get what they should out of it, which is really those special moments.
Yeah, I agree. It's like live television. If you've got video, it's like live
Totally.
television, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. In fact, a long time ago, I edited videos back
Oh
when
my
everything was on
gosh.
SVHS.
Yeah.
But how many times, at least 3 times, where I'm editing the reception and the videographer will turn the camera on himself and say, the photographer's in my way again, just so that
Oh,
I can see it in the editing booth.
they're just constantly walking in the
Oh,
shot, and you're like, oh, I'm trying to get this too. Yeah.
Well, Tatiana, you're brilliant. I'm so happy that you and JP have this longstanding relationship that led to you coming on as a guest on our podcast. I know people are going to want to reach out to you. What's the best way for them to do that?
Thank you so much both for having me. I really appreciate this. This is so fantastic. Couples or anybody interested can reach me at either events, events, at castlegreen.com, or give me a call, 626-793-0359. Feel
That's
free to
great.
reach out. Happy to chat.
That's fantastic. JP, tell everybody how they get in touch with you.
yeah. So the website is jprweddings.com, and social and everything is listed on the website.
And also remember that JP is an accomplished author. Tatiana, I don't know if you know this, but he's written
Yes.
books about doing a wedding ceremony as an officiant, also preparing for the ceremony. His books are in the Amazon store and in the Kindle store in Amazon, and they are brilliant. And he is also a communications expert. You probably know that firsthand because of the way he communicates with you. Thebusinessofconfidence.com is that website. His wedding website is jprweddings.com. Now, mine is just my name, Clint Huff, CLINTHUFFT.com, for all of the things that I do. That's it for this episode of the Wedding Ceremony Podcast. This is Clint, and on behalf of JP and Tatiana, we will see you next time.